Blessings to FCC Pomona friends. This is Rafael Reyes on another reflection on Lent. You know, Pastor Mike spoke about in his past Sunday sermon about this idea of perishing. And it brought to mind something that a favorite author of mine, Alfred North Whitehead, says, that everything around us is perishing. We are at every moment perishing. And he goes, when we tend to hold on to those things that are perishing, they're like sand in your hands or water. Because the harder you try to hold on to it, the faster it leaves us. What was interesting about Mike's sermon was that he says, there are people who are alive, or people who are not dead, yet are perishing. Think about that. They're not dead, they're alive, but they are perishing. They have been hurt by a traumatic experience. They are holding on probably to the past a bit, or to some event that they just can't go through. And it's a moment of perishing, because it is a moment in which we're standing still instead of moving. Or we're moving, but we're moving in the same place, maybe going around in circles. Kind of reminds me of, traveling for 40 years in the desert, right, or in the wilderness. And it was only after 40 years that the next generation gets into the promised land. We're perishing because we cannot see ourselves out of the situation. Now, this is not to belittle trauma. Traumatic experiences affect us. But what happens in this passage, when Jesus says, the fig tree, we should let it perish, give us one more year. Let us work the soil. Let's put manure in it. Because they want to see growth. And when Mike was talking about that and talking about perishing, the question that comes up and something that he has is, well, how do we get out of traumatic experiences? How do we move on? How do we grow from it? Whitehead also had a similar question. He goes, even though there's a midst of perishing, why do we always find novelty? Why is novelty there? Why do we, in the midst of something that we see of death, we see something new, something creative? And John Cobb in his Process Theology is saying, that Christ is the creative advance, the one that moves us forward, right, into creative new ways. Maybe the question of trauma and perishing requires us to slowly, piece by piece, let go, or maybe to make it to a point where that although it's there, it is not affecting us as much. So that we're able to see beyond it, or we're able to see and move forward. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe that's what Christ is calling us towards. A mode of healing, a mode of moving forward. This is my reflection on Lent. God bless.